Hi, my name is Ashley Miner. My hook requires visuals, but I don't have that yet, so bear with me. I want you all to take a look at this image. Does it look familiar? What about this? Or this? Now I want you to take a look at this. This one definitely looks familiar. Can you tell me what they all have in common? All these places are here. We live in a region called the Pacific Northwest, an area that covers more than 250,000 square miles in the northwestern United States. Some of us have lived here our entire lives. I personally grew up in Western Washington and am now a North Idaho local. So I've experienced both sides of the landscape, the rainy evergreen forests and the dry, rolling Palouse hills. But despite living here for so long, many of us have probably never stopped to ask, why does this place look the way it does? From towering volcanoes to rainforests and dry shrub steppe, the Pacific Northwest landscape is the result of ancient tectonic activity, mountain-influenced climate patterns, and the ecosystems that emerged from its conditions. To understand how this region formed, we have to go back millions of years, long before forests, cities, or even people were here. The Pacific Northwest landscape has been shaped greatly by ancient tectonic activity. The Cascade Range was formed from subduction. Deep beneath our feet, the Earth's crust is broken into massive moving plates. According to the U.S. Geological Survey's Geology, Minerals, Energy, and Geophysics Science Center, in its 2021 publication, Pacific Northwest Geological Mapping, Northern Pacific Borders, Cascades, and Columbia, the Cascade Range was formed by the subduction of the Juan de Fuca Plate beneath the North American Plate, a process that continues to shape the region today. This ongoing collision doesn't just sit quietly under the ground. It drives earthquakes, uplifts land, and fuels volcanic activity. In fact, the Pacific Northwest is home to 20 major volcanoes, all formed from this subduction zone. Here's how it works. When the oceanic plate sinks into the mantle, it releases water. That water lowers the melting point of the surrounding rocks, creating magma. That magma is less dense than the rock around it, so it rises upward, eventually erupting as volcanoes like Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. These eruptions built the dramatic snow-capped peaks that define the region's skyline. But tectonic forces weren't the only thing sculpting the land. During the Pleistocene Ice Age, massive glaciers covered much of the Pacific Northwest. In a 2010 article in the journal Geomorphology, researchers B.D. Collins and D.R. Montgomery explains that glaciers carved and reorganized river valleys into Puget Sound, permanently shaping the area's modern topography. Those inlets, valleys, and carved landscapes we see today, many of them were shaped by slow-moving ice thousands of feet thick. So first, tectonic forces built the mountains and volcanoes, then glaciers carved and refined them. The foundation of the Pacific Northwest was laid deep beneath the ground and shaped by ice above it. Once the mountains were built, they began influencing something else entirely, our climate. The Pacific Northwest climate is influenced heavily by its mountain ranges and proximity to the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean supplies enormous amounts of moisture to the region. Winds carry that moist air inland toward the mountains. But when the air tries to move eastward, it runs into a massive barrier, the Cascade Mountain Range. Cliff Mass, a professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Washington, explains in his 2021 book, The Weather of the Pacific Northwest, that moist air from the Pacific Ocean is forced upward by the Cascade Range, producing a heavy rainfall on the west side of the mountains and much drier conditions on the east. We call this process the rain shadow effect. As trapped air rises, it cools and releases precipitation on western slopes. This is why western Washington and parts of Oregon are known for constant rainfall and dense forests. By the time the air crosses over the mountains and descends on the eastern side, most of the moisture is gone. The result? A much drier climate. This is why the west side of the Cascade experiences lush green conditions, while the Columbia Plateau and much of the east, including Idaho, are significantly drier. The mountains didn't just shape the region's land, they shaped the weather. And those climate differences set the stage for entirely different ecosystems to develop. That brings us to our final piece of the PNW puzzle, the vegetation. The Pacific Northwest vegetation reflects its varied climate and terrain. Conditions have led to temperate rainforests in the west and dry shrub steppe ecosystems in the east. In the western portion of the region, high moisture levels and moderate temperatures create near perfect growing conditions. Rainfall is consistent and wildfire risk is lower. According to the U.S. Forest Service Pacific Northwest region website, this area contains diverse forest ecosystems dominated by coniferous species such as Douglas fir and western red cedar. These forests are some of the most productive temperate rainforests in the world, supporting massive trees, thick ground cover, and complex wildlife systems. But as we cross the Cascade Mountain Range, the environment changes dramatically. The Pacific Northwest eastern regions support shrub steppe ecosystems. Instead of towering evergreens, the landscape is dominated by grasses, sagebrush, and other drought-resistant plants. These ecosystems developed directly in response to the rain shadow effect and the terrain differences that were created millions of years ago. In other words, the vegetation we see in the area today is the visible result of everything that came before it. Tectonic shifts, mountain building, and climate patterns all working together. The Pacific Northwest looks the way it does because of ancient tectonic collisions, mountains that shape our weather, and ecosystems that adapted over time. Driven by tectonic shifts and mountainous weather patterns, this region has become a landscape defined by striking contrasts, from volcanic peaks to rainforests to dry rolling hills. The next time you're out exploring the forest, mountains, or even those dry hills around us, remember, you're not just seeing scenery. You're looking at millions of years of geological history that shaped here, the Pacific Northwest.